As Torrent brought me to the swampy terrain of cursed Liurnia, fortune turned out to be on my side, and hidden knowledge of an ancient blood oath was revealed to me. Supposedly, it engulfed weapons with something called blood flame. I would have to look into that at a more suitable time. And of course, who would I happen to stumble upon, other than that white-masked and loathsome lover of sheep who had initially welcomed me to this world?
Ah, there you are. You claimed a great rune and had your audience with the two fingers at the round table hole. What was your impression?
I couldn't really hide my disdain. The cult of the two fingers was ghastly, and I chose to be honest.
Aha, your intuition serves you well. My doubts had been piling up, you see. The words of the two fingers cannot be trusted. Oh, I have a gift for you, something fit only for the wise.
For some reason, he gave me 5 particularly gross and curled fingers. How had these blackened body parts, clearly chopped off with a crude instrument, come into his possession? My first impression had been accurate. He was indeed revolting. Maybe even more so than Rani's slick and soon-to-be deceased sorcerer. After a thoroughly depressing journey through the wetlands, I could finally see Stormveil Castle again. And as I passed the camp with those perpetually hungry soldiers, I decided on a whim to visit the place where I had met kind-hearted Thops. Entering the ruinous church and grabbing treasure from a scarab desperately trying to protect its belongings, I realized Thops had somehow left a gift behind. As if ordained by watchful and mourning gods, it even began to rain at that exact moment. Returning without any sort of joy to the foul temple of severed limbs, I entered its dusty corridors. Apparently, the spiteful servant would be stomping the remains of his former master forever. Hardly a fulfilling life in the wake of sudden freedom. Not feeling particularly like troll-killing, I tried to backtrack to whence I had come weeks ago, but happened to find a hidden area. Maybe it would lead me out. It did not. Instead, I found myself underground in a dark part of the castle, along with crumpling statues. And rats, suspiciously well-fed rats, most likely enjoying the company of poor servants stumbling into this hole. How lovely. Something was bound to be hiding down here, and sure enough, from beneath the ground itself, a wormish tree with purple ulcers broke through. The biggest problem turned out to be the maddening speed of the monstrosity, and because of that, I couldn't even hit the damn thing. It was hardly my fault, that much was certain. To blame me for this ordeal of failure was to overlook the finer complexities of the encounter. That being said, I did manage to kill the abject tree in the end, even if it was diseased and maybe possessed by a demonic snake spirit. As I sent the disgusting fiend back to the earth, I realized just how quaint this underground area was. In this unsettling hole beneath the castle, I grabbed a bulging and sickly inflamed patch of skin, yet something seemed off. What strange roots? Why did they look like... Terrified, I just stood there without moving a muscle. What was I looking at? Finally, trembling with fear, I approached the seemingly petrified abomination with its empty snake eyes. I didn't want to, but I couldn't resist its pull. It somehow felt of immeasurable importance. Much to my dismay, I ended up spending far more time in this amputated stronghold than anticipated. Even so, while trying to find my way back to Limgrave, I came upon an utterly obnoxious stone hammer. Who of sound mind would willingly wander with a weapon this vulgar? Surely, there wasn't a hammer of equal size in the entire land. Something interesting also happened during that unexpected stay. The door in that monumental tower, which had previously been locked, turned out to be accessible. Though lamenting not yet being able to escape this fortress, I stepped onto a glorious lift, and for some reason, felt excitement simmering within. Where would this machinery take me? among the clouds, and confronted with a bewildering sight. Something seemed to gently push me toward two of those hideously sized fingers. And as if by divine intervention, a realization dawned on me. That enigmatic rune left to me by wretched Godric so long ago was meant for this place. Why was everyone so obsessed with these nauseating and hairy creatures? The Erdtree hadn't even come any closer during my travels. It always just towered on the horizon like a secretive and enormous monument. But at this particular moment, it seemed to fill the very world itself with a soothing presence, impregnating the lands with its golden rays. Back at the site of grace and contemplating Godric's curious rune, I discovered that those flashy trinkets I had thought to be worthless, in truth, served an unseen function. They were conveyors of radical powers from beyond, and crushing one of them, unimaginable strength flowed through me. In a matter of hours, I discovered the way out, and at long last entered Limgrave, yet acquiring powerful knowledge on my way south. I felt a strong urge to see a rarity in these lands. Approaching the ruin with something resembling high spirits, I found a most exotic bell lying on the ground. It was heavy, and would produce a clear sound when rung. Who would leave such a possession? There he was, that kind merchant who had greeted me in the earliest days of my journey. Resting my weary bones at his campfire was nothing short of pure bliss. I took a moment to examine the bell, which admittedly was a fine piece of craftsmanship. It was obvious that it had to be used at some point. Maybe it would even scare off unwelcome intruders with the beautiful sound of music. But there was another matter to attend to as well. And was this perhaps not an ideal time to experiment with the blood incantation I had discovered? The oath had a striking effect, and my hook claws were engulfed in ever so delicious flames. I began to pierce that night with the claws, and penetrated both flesh and armor with a disgusting ease. Enduring the very attack which had caused my demise the last time, I bled the warrior. Putting good use to the teachings of the War Master, I withstood even the most powerful attack mustered by the bully. A question for which I already knew the answer came to mind. Was he compensating for something? Either way, the knight who had terrorized me was no more. Having dealt with that weakling masquerading as someone of importance, I found a longsword of impeccable quality among the belongings of a lowly henchman. Proceeding south from here, an invisible trickster sought to abuse my gullible nature with false cries of desperation.
Oi! You there? Could you help us out, Cully?
I most certainly could not. Instead, stumbling upon another treasure meant for later use, I relied solely on Torrent's instincts to lead me to my destination. With evening approaching, we stopped at a nearby site of grace. There was something warranting further inspection. Slowly studying the blackened finger given to me by the gentleman fond of animals, I touched the ground with it, and the earth began to glow with a throbbing reddish light. At that moment, and without any sort of warning, I found myself materializing in another place altogether. Wait, was this the academy? I took the lift down to where I had killed that insolent knight, so fond of deflections, only to become even more confused. Why did the sorcerers not see me? It made no sense. Utterly annoyed by this strange experience, I heard a loud ruckus somewhere nearby, and headed out to see what was going on. Apparently, someone was fighting down there,